I've done all of Brighton.
Hello there, you loose units, and welcome back to another episode of Spicy Boy Reviews. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew Iles. Hope you've been looking after yourselves, looking after each other, pulling your heads in and all that jazz. Welcome to another episode. Today's a little bit different. Today we're not reviewing a film, we are reviewing a show on a streaming service, because that's the world that we bloody live in. I had a look what was out at the cinema at the time, I was like, fuck that noise, let's stay at home and watch something, and I did. Today's review is about the new show called Jupiter's Legacy. A bunch of old fart superheroes are questions about their out-of-date code by a bunch of superpowered millennials. Even with great power comes great annoyance from the younger generation. In a world that has become cynical and less black and white, these golden age heroes struggle not only with the ever-changing world, but their superpowered children who constantly bitch and moan. It ain't the boys or the Watchmen. This social justice league is Jupiter's Legacy. And that's a synopsis for the new Netflix show, Jupiter's Legacy. That's right, it's a brand new show on Netflix. It's their answer to The Boys and The Watchmen. It's adapted from a comic book of the same name by Mark Miller, who is most notably known for writing and creating the comic book Wanted, which also became a Hollywood blockbuster, and Kick-Ass, which the first one was great, the second one, not so good. Comic book characters are all over the scene. They're big bucks for Hollywood. They're what Steven Spielberg once quoted in saying in an interview, that they are the westerns of today. Hollywood are just churning them out. They get bums on seats, they make money, because now, of course, being a nerd is fucking profitable. You can go into any low-budget clothing store like Big W or Kmart and pick yourself up a Captain America t-shirt or a fucking Iron Man undies, or whatever. They're plastered over everything. Comic book characters are fucking everywhere. Now, Hollywood has snatched up all the well-known characters, some with different variations of success, and now streaming services want a piece of the pie and have jumped on board. They've had to go deeper into the bargain bin at a comic book store, digging through all the shite and hopefully find a nugget of gold, which they have. To be honest with you. They've found deeper, rich characters with more interesting subject matter, and they're able to tackle more darker material. In recent past, we've had The Boys, The Watchmen, Titans, The Umbrella Corporation, Invincible, and fucking so on. Where Marvel are bright and fun, getting woke and tackling social justice problems, these shows tackle more of the moral compass, and take on a more political approach, I guess you could say, with a lot of what-ifs. Or if there was a superhuman being, what would they be like? They'd probably be a fucking psychopath. Or would we actually like a superhuman being if they existed? That sort of stuff. They have time to delve deeper into more of the psyche of a character, which is kind of cool, and able to tackle more darker material. That's what a streaming service can get into more than what a Hollywood blockbuster could. See, with the Marvel films, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars invested in it, and in all honesty, they kind of need a sure bet. Because not everyone's going back to the cinema and stuff like that. Like, they need their return quicker. In streaming services, they could have a bit more leeway and take a bit more risks, which is nice, which we're seeing with these streaming service comic book character adaptations, I suppose. In all honesty, I'm suffering from a little bit of superhero fatigue. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fucking comic book nerd from way back when. I've been purchasing comic books and figurines, action figures, what have you, since I was a child, and still do it to this day. I'm a fucking fan, but even I'm growing a bit tiresome of it all. However, these new shows, they're breathing a bit more fresh life into the superhero genre, which is honestly a little bit of an exhausted genre at the moment. As I said, they get to have time to delve deeper into the psyche of characters, tackle a bit more darker subject matter, and use the superhero format as a bit more of a metaphor, which, of course, the source material has done as well. Instead of just being explosion, explosion, fighty, fighty, ooh, someone's dead, but let's have a little quip. You know, they don't have to do that, which is kind of nice, and have a bit more room and time to breathe. Now, in Jupiter's Legacy, there's two stories happening simultaneously. We have the origin story of our Justice League. I know they're not called the fucking Justice League, I just can't remember the name of them. I think they're called the Union, I think. Anyway, they have like a an origin story, if you will, and it goes back into the past. They do a bit of time jumpy all over the shop. And they get questions whether now, jumping into present time, their moral code is out of date. Because back in the old days, it was very much black and white. You know, there was good, there was bad, there was good, there was evil, all that sort of rubbish. Now, in today's society, there's a little bit more grey area, and the moral code, it can sway either way. We also have our fresh new heroes that we jump between, which are the children of these Golden Age superheroes, and they have a bit more cynical approach to their work because they're living in today's society, which is a bit more of a grey area morally. Oh, how the times have changed. And that's a good metaphor for comic books as well. If you go back to the Golden Age of comic books, it was very much Superman, truth, justice, the American way, and even Batman wasn't that dark per se. You know, he's pretty bright and colourful, but now comic books are getting a bit more meaty, getting a bit more like of today's standards of like the grey area of a moral compass. And as I said, it's split into two between the young and the old. And I have to admit, when it went to the elderly superheroes, or back into the past when they weren't so elderly, but even when they jump in the future when they are elderly, their acting is fucking phenomenal. I think because they had the best subject matter because their moral compass was being questioned. They're amazing. Josh Duhamel, who carries this show, he's their lead, is fucking phenomenal in this show. It's amazing. I can't remember all the other actors' names of the Union, I think they're called, the elderly superheroes, the Golden Age superheroes. They are fucking amazing, probably because they have the better subject matter to tackle. Then we jump to the children, the younger generation of superheroes, and I didn't give a fuck about them or their struggle. I didn't care. They were fucking annoying. Now, I'm not going to say the acting was very emoty and annoying. I don't necessarily know if that's the actor's fault. Like, the younger actors of the new generation superheroes, they're very good looking, they're very pretty, but not very interesting. And I just sort of switched off. I didn't give a fuck about their struggle. And I think it might have to do with the writing, perhaps. And, the subject matter they had to tackle, didn't give a fuck about them at all. They were just whiny, which I suppose could be a metaphor of today's generation, I suppose. We've all got something to complain about. Whereas the older generation were a bit more interesting to watch. Oh, my dad's not around much because, he's too busy saving the world. Shut up! Who fucking cares? Your dad's a fucking superhero. You know, who gives a shit? Shut up! Like I said, there was a lot of emoting. There was emoting acting, which just switched me off. I don't know if it's the actor or comedian in me. I was just like, shut the fuck up. There's a lot of repeated scenes and lengthy dialogue. And when I say repeated, a lot of repetitive scenes, it's just the same scene with different actors. They're just talking about the same thing. It's like, we get it. The world's changed. Or, we get it. You're struggling, whatever, with, your parents not being around. Who gives a shit? But it was a bit repetitive at times. And again, repetitive dialogue just with different actors. And I was just like, move on. I didn't necessarily have to have punchy superhero fighty. But like, let's talk about something different now. In saying that, though, the pace, it moved pretty well. Like, the pace was even, I suppose. It wasn't quick, it wasn't slow, it was even. I got through it pretty fucking quick, hence why we're talking about it. I got through it in a day. There's 8 episodes, and to different variations, they're about 45 minutes each, the episode, so it's not a slog, you can get through it. The elderly makeup, because obviously Josh Duhamel and his crew aren't 60 years old, they're quite young. The elderly makeup didn't bother me at all. I mean, there's different variations. There was some scenes were like, that's obviously a wig. It didn't take me out of it though. I was invested enough in these characters and in what they were going through. The elderly makeup didn't bother me at all. It's done pretty well. The special effects were pretty good as well for a streaming service. They were very good. Like I've seen a lot of, especially in this genre of superhero shows on streaming services, they can be a bit fucking shonky and cartoony. Not here. They're pretty decent. Special effects, thumbs up. Awesome. It did take me a while to get into it, though. Like, the first episode did not grab me at all. It took me about, I think, the 3-episode mark, so stick with it. As I said, it's an easy watch. It's only 8 episodes, 45 minutes each, so stick with it. Yeah, it took me about 3 episodes to get into it. But then I was invested. In the little bit of research that I did after watching this show, like I saw the show and I thought the costumes were a bit like, it's very, very comic booky and a bit naff at times. But then in doing a little bit of research afterwards, the costumes are fucking bang on to the comic books. They are exactly what's on the page. Just a little bit updated, but yeah, they were exactly. So the costume, they've really paid homage to Mark Millar's work. They've really done well with the costume design here because it's exactly what's on the comic book page. And in saying that, if the show goes down the same path as the comic book, Man, we are in for some fucking interesting episodes coming up, some interesting subject matter. It will be wholeheartedly original and awesome if they follow the comic book, which, again, in the little research that I've done, this first season really does pay homage and sticks very closely to the subject matter of the comic book. So they're probably going to do that with season 2. And I hope it does get a season 2, because again, if they stick to the comic book, this is going to be a very interesting show, to say the least. It's not as gory as The Boys, although it does have its moments. It does get a little bit bloody at times. And there's a whole section halfway through the show, based in the 20s and 30s, that goes full-blown American Gothic horror in the 20s, 30s, which I fucking loved. That was the most interesting part about the show. And again, Josh Duhamel really carried that whole section. He's fucking amazing in this show. He's really good. His acting's off the charts. It's amazing. And the chemistry with his union, those other actors, is great. I was really invested in their characters. But yes, this is an easy watch. Watch it if you're into the exhausted genre of superhero shows. I'm kind of on board. I've got a bit of fatigue, but I'm always going to be on board of superhero stuff because I've always been a fan. But I like the interesting subject matter that these streaming shows have gone down. So that's it, guys. Jupiter's Legacy. It's okay. It's a good watch. It gets better as the episodes go on. Yeah, it's good. Thumbs up. Again, write down below, what's your favourite streaming service superhero show, like The Boys, The Watchmen, Invincible, all that sort of stuff. There's fucking heaps out there, as I aforementioned at the top of this episode. There are so many of them. But write down below what's your favourite one, or what's your favourite character, all that jazz. Please, if you could, give this episode a thumbs up and a like. Your love and support really carries this show. And of course, please give it a subscribe. I love your love and support as always. And as always, stay spooky, kids.